We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
We talked about taking full advantage of the skills of immigrants in our first segment. Now we'll meet members of a family with immigrant roots, putting both skills and compassion to work at home and abroad. It's the family of Dr. Zia Ahmad. He's a cardiologist. He and members of his family have traveled to Bangladesh to help Rohingya refugees from Myanmar living in bleak refugee camps. Meantime, his son started a program here called Biking for Books. It raises funds to provide books for St. Louis schools. Quite a family. Joining me in studio are Zia Ahmed, his wife Fatima, and their son Ariz. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And congratulations for all you've done. We'll tell folks what that has all been in a moment, but it's really been quite impressive, your background. Zia, let me begin with you. What is the motivation for you becoming so involved in the community, both here and abroad?
Well, I think as growing up, we always saw an emphasis in helping others, and especially the one who are less fortunate. And in addition to that, we wanted to live our faith, which is a strong emphasis in religion, Muslim by faith, our family. And there's always a great tradition of helping others, so not just to talk about it, but to actually live that. And thirdly, which is also an important factor, last but not the least, was to lead by example for our boys so that they consider a life of service an important part of what they are to do in their future lives.
Yeah. Fatima, what has your role been in all of this?
I have worked with the refugees families here in St. Louis, the Somali families and the Syrian families. And you work with them and you hear their stories and you find out what all they have gone through. And that makes you want to help them out in what all they've endured. I myself am I grew up in a middle-class family. And one emphasis I saw in my family was, the emphasis was always there on helping others, whether it's a neighbor or an extended family member or whoever else. And however my family could help, we tried to get involved and help.
It's just been a part of your life.
Part of our life.
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning, yes.
Ariz, you come at this a little bit differently. You've got these great examples right in your own home. What about your own approach to this?
So I was always involved in Biking for Books, but now that my brothers are away at college, I'm more involved. I help organize the event. I get my friends to come participate and volunteer. And this year, my school dean came. And I'm also very active in getting the word out.
Right. What exactly is Biking for Books?
So Biking for Books is a nonprofit that raises money at a biking event to buy books for St. Louis City schools.
And how did this come into being? What made you decide, you and your brothers, that this is something you wanted to do?
So my brothers and I are very avid in biking. We enjoy it, and we also enjoy helping back or giving back. And our family friend, Barry, grew up in one of these schools and realized that we needed to help, and we decided that we wanted.
So you're raising funds for books. My understanding is that most recently you've also been giving away bicycles?
Yes. This year we received a donation that allowed us to give the bikes away, so we decided to do that. And when it was announced at the event, that was very powerful because getting your bike is something you never forget, and it was just very great to be a part of that experience.
Well, we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. I'll go back to the parents for a bit. Zia, you mentioned that what you do and your motivation is very much inspired by your Muslim faith. What is it in the Quran that dictates that?
So in the Quran, everywhere where it is mentioned the people of faith, there's always about good deeds. So I'll give you an example of one of the verses in Quran. It's a Surah Asr, in which it says people of the one who are believers do good deeds وَعَمِلُوا آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ is Surah Asr in that. And if there was an emphasis, if you look at the life of the Prophet, every emphasis was on doing good deeds and helping. Prophet Muhammad became a prophet at the age of 40. Before that, what he did was establish a life of helping others, of humanity, of coming around with things that were unheard of in the Arab world at the time, about the rights of minorities, about rights of kids, how you treat elderly, how you treat infirm, how you treat the weak. And this is what actually is the basis of Islam. This is what worship is, to help others and to do good.
I don't want to get political, but I'll just ask this one question. And Fatima, I'll send it your way, if I may. Given the political atmosphere in the country today, do you think Americans really fully understand what Muslims are all about?
I think the media has not done a justification in that. I think Muslim faith is about giving back, is about helping others. And as Zia had mentioned, it's our Prophet's life is an example of that. He helped others. He himself was an orphan, so he understood the situation for the orphan kids. And this is the whole idea that we have gotten involved ourselves also, because there's a saying that if you want to help someone, don't just get him a fish, to teach him how to catch a fish. And that's what we try to do as well. The Biking for Books is an example where we've tried to instill so the kids learn how to read and enjoy reading, and that's one of the things that we want to do.
Interesting. The fish analogy is very much a part of the Christian faith as well. They're not that far apart, are they?
No, they're three.
They all have the same
roots.
Zia, do you want to take that on and then we'll skip the political stuff?
Yes, I think majority of Americans who have come in contact with Muslims understand what Islam is about. That's a religion that teaches good, and like every faith, there's some bad actors, but the majority of people are good. But unfortunately, the sensationalization which takes place with news that are there and that covered much more in the media, which gives a bad name. But I think I go and practice in rural areas. I've got a clinic in southern Missouri, in Ironton. I go down to southern Illinois in Redbud, and vast majority are Christians. They have not come into contact with Muslims, but they understand when we talk to them and you tell them. They understand and appreciate what the Muslims are doing in their communities. So that Islamophobia is not really a part of the American society or fabric, except what is being whipped up by ulterior motives, by the politicians or by media.
Yeah. Well, I knew, quite frankly, what your answers were going to be to that question, but I think it's important for people to understand who don't understand that. And Ariz, how about you? You were born in this country. What does all of this mean to you, and how does it affect you?
Well, I agree that the media doesn't do a good job justifying it, but all the things that those people are doing out in the Middle East, those terrorists, one thing we Muslims do is we say Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you. So I think that's very important, and that's a part of our culture.
Okay, now let's get back to some other things.
If I can add one thing, Don, but at the same time, we appreciate media personalities like you and having this opportunity to come and talk about it. And I think this is also there, and I do not want to overlook that and not mention that.
Well, thank you. I'm proud to do it and happy to do it. It's an important thing to have people know. I want to talk a little bit about your work in Bangladesh, because here again, it doesn't get as much coverage, the situation there, the refugee situation, as it should. But Zia, how did you get into this part of your life to help the people in those refugee camps, which are just awful from what I understand?
So it was actually by happenstance that I'd read about the conditions and this crisis in Myanmar and was aware of that. But it just happened that I picked up an article. It was in New York Times back in April last year, which talked about the story of a 20-year-old girl who had her two sisters killed raped and killed. Her mother and younger brother were killed in the other room. And before that, her 14-month-old son was ripped from her hand. Before it was thrown in front of her eyes, he was thrown into burning fire. And then this poor girl was raped. She obviously was in a state of trauma and shock when she came to Bangladesh and in the camps. And this reporter had actually put the story out. And that really moved me, and I came and talked to Fatma, and I said that I'd like to go and volunteer there. Even when I speak about it now, it has a profound effect on me. And that is when Fatma, because of her background of the Syrian refugees and the Somalian refugees here, she said that she wanted to go and help that.
Yeah, and so when he came back he had actually gone to a conference, he came back with the newspaper, and he said, "This is very moving, and I think I'm going to go there." So I knew that he is certainly going to go. And there are times when you see some things and you can't explain, but this didn't need any persuasion. It just was clear in our minds that we all want to go as well.
Give me some sense of what conditions are like in those camps.
Very, very sad. Let's just say that the camp, the density in that camp is twice the amount of downtown Manhattan. So you can get an idea. Downtown Manhattan has high rises. This is just all flat area. It's all hilly. In addition to the fact that I can give you some examples that in the clinics, the things that I saw. There was this young girl who had come in. She was just 19-year-old. And she had a miscarriage. And she had been brought in on a bamboo stick. So the fact that they improvised turned a bamboo stick into a stretcher, and both the ends were being carried by two men, and
a basket,
like a basket. And Sarah, and saw her, knew immediately what there had to be some blood transfusion and all that stuff had to be given, and she had to be transported to a hospital, and the closest hospital was about 45 minutes away, all hilly area, and the guys had to walk her there,
carry her
back over there, and that was a sad thing. There was one instance in which the two girls, 14-year-old and a 6-year-old. 14-year-old is the breadwinner because the parents have been shot dead, and she is taking care of the 6-year-old. That's such a sad situation.
Even describing it, I guess we cannot fully picture what it must be like, even with the pictures that you paint for us with your words.
It is very sad. Even when I talk about it.
Yeah, Ariz, what was your impression of this? I mean, you're a young man. You've never been exposed to anything like this before.
No. The drinking water there was very scarce, and they didn't even have proper bathrooms. They didn't have. The lack of sanitation was eye-opening. Most of the kids didn't even have shoes. One thing that really struck me was how they get their food. To collect their food, people must have ration cards. And to get that, they wait in a line for hours. Now that they have the ration card, they must wait in the line just as long as the last to go collect their food by showing their ration card. What struck me was that I was such a hassle to get food. Here I can just go to my fridge and get something to eat.
Yeah. What exactly did you do in the camps?
I worked in the pharmacy, specifically when it came to record keeping and medicine.
And Zia, what were you doing? Were you doing surgeries, or what precisely was your role?
No, it was a primary care. As a cardiologist, one has to do medicine before, so I do have a primary care background, although that's not what I do day in and day out. But in the clinics, that was it. So we were seeing all kinds of patients. I was seeing kids. There's a outbreak of diphtheria at the time in the camps. So mainly that, like this girl that Fatma mentioned about this young female who came in with shock and postpartum hemorrhage, which is bleeding after the birth of a child, and dehydration. So we saw all kind of patients. But I think in the terms of the condition, if I may, it's there are about close to under 1 million people in this huge area, and all are tents, which are just made of tarpaulin and bamboo sticks. And it's all hilly, up and down. There are no proper roads, although some ways have been made. There's some bridges that have been made by bamboo sticks and ropes by the Rohingya refugees themselves. The thing that struck me, there's no water, there's no electricity. They are digging these tube wells, and they're being done by the Rohingya refugees themselves. The spirit that they had, they were not feeling victims. They knew they had a problem, but they were doing one day at a time. And it was amazing how they were dealing with the adversity and the bad conditions that they have to deal with.
How many people are in these camps? It's well over 1 million, isn't it?
It's under 1 million. By some estimates, it's close to 1 million. Since the military action started on August 25th of last year, there have been close to 700,000 people that have come between August 25th, 2017 to when we were there in December. There's been a little trickle of refugees after that as well. Before that, there were about close to 300,000 refugees that were there before in these camps.
What kind of equipment did you have to work with? I mean, what were the facilities like for you to do the kinds of things that you and Fatma were doing, and Aris?
So the first time we went as a family, which was in December, it was just plainly being able to examine a patient, triage them, and give them the medication that was being given. That was no blood test, nothing could be done. The second time when I went in April, and I went myself with some other physicians that I had taken as volunteers, we were able to spend time, and at that point we did have an ultrasound machine there. We did have ability to give IVs and patients with dehydration and do some initial lab work. So that has changed, but I think for most of the thing it is just primary care, basic health care. No other facilities are there. We can't do an X-ray. For surgeries and all that, we have to send them to a field hospital.
Fatima, go ahead.
There's one thing I wanted to say. These are people with so much potential and very little opportunity, absolutely no opportunity. One example that I wanted to give was there was this kid. He had a water bottle with him. And what he had done was cut the end of the water bottle, turned it into a tail. And in the front, he had put 2 sticks, which were like antlers. And for wheels, what he had done were the caps, the bottle caps. So it was like a small pet he was carrying with him, which was rolling, which towing him. Yeah. And this is innovative thinking. I mean, turn a water bottle into something like that. And there was another incident, the ultrasound person.
Yeah, there was a refugee who actually had trained himself into a sonographer by looking at YouTube videos. And he was doing a pretty decent job there in the second time that I went.
Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and I guess that's a couple of examples of it, perhaps. Yeah. Aris, how about your association with younger people of your own age in these camps? Did you have any real contact with kids?
I did see some little kids. I didn't really have that much contact with them. I was mainly focused in the pharmacy recording. But when we went and visited schools the first day, and I remember all the kids I met them. I gave them hugs. I shook their hands, and that was really powerful because there was a 14-year-old kid my age, and he was at least a head taller than me, and he was very, very thin. He was extremely malnourished, and he clearly was lacking the resources he needed to live, and that was extremely powerful because here it's a completely different story.
Zia, how do you balance your professional life here with all of these travels abroad and the things that you're doing overseas?
So I'm fortunate to have a group of physicians that we cross-cover each other. And it does take me from my professional work, but at the same time, I think there's an understanding that the colleagues have, and they help me out with that. So I appreciate that. And I think, and it's not just there, if I may take this opportunity also to say that I'm part of a group of other American Muslims who work day in, day out, and I think we have a couple of clinics that we run interfaith in churches here, one in North St. Louis, one in Ferguson, and it's weekly clinics in which we see patients. Most of them are non-Muslims, but I think it is all to help in living our tradition. And I think it's not just our family is a representative of many other families of American Muslims who are trying to do good work and who are trying to live their faith.
Well, I'll ask you, Fatima, as well. Our time is running out. How do you balance work as a mother and a housewife with all of the other things that you're doing?
No, it is. I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm able to do all of this. It's become much easier now. The older two are now in college now, so that is a easier situation. But when the kids were younger, I wasn't able to help as much.
Sure.
But I'm glad I'm able to do this.
In one sentence, Ariz, how are you balancing school and volunteer work?
Do my homework, and I do what I can to help when I can.
I want to thank you all so much. Congratulations. What a family. You should be very, very proud of each other, and I'm sure you are. Zia Ahmad, his wife Fatima, and son Ariz. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.